They had to get this right. Uniformation have made too many mistakes in the last 6 months not to. And that means the GK3 Pro is a big deal. And that's a lot of pressure. So are Uniformation finally ready? Is this printer going to be the follow-up to their successful first album, or a flop, followed by a slow slide into obscurity? But most importantly, is the GK3 Pro worth your hard-earned money? Before we can test anything else, we need to open up the top of the printer and check one thing. So the GK3 uses a widened linear rail to reduce wobble and lower the possibility of layer lines. They team this up with a ball screw to give micro level accuracy. And as I said, the only way to check their homework here is to crack the printer open. And once open, I can confirm there is a steel ball screw, a wider than typical linear rail, and an aluminium block to lock everything in place. It looks tight, and as you can see with the checks I did with the magnets, all the metals are appropriately metalled. The use of ball screws are a really good sign too. They're more expensive components, they're a little bit slower but a lot more accurate and reliable, and you often find them on higher end machines, which in fairness this is, such as the Haygears reflex printers. So my goal in this video is to tear the GK3 Pro apart, to fact check every claim that Uniformation are making and put it to the test in a way that I've never really had to do with any other resin printer before, all with one purpose in mind: to find out if the GK3 is a true successor to its incredible predecessor, the GK2. And I need to do that because the communications from Uniformation over the past year have been, frankly, abysmal. And so there's no way I can expect you to trust what I say about them without physically showing you the facts. In fact, I really want to love this printer, but there's no way I can trust the marketing claims without proving to myself they are what they say they are. And if you want to see more detailed testing and honest feedback like that on the channel, make sure you subscribe right now and leave a comment telling me so. Thanks. So this is the second video I've made about GK3 Pro. In the first one, Uniformation sent me a prototype printer, and in this one, they've sent me the final production version. But honestly, not a lot has changed between the two. I said in the first video I really liked the printer, but it had some little flaws. Now, I'm pleased to say that most of those little flaws have been eliminated. There's now a power button on the front, which is a correct place for a power button. And they've extended the bracket on the drip mount so that you can close the lid and use the drip mount at the same time, which is nice, but that's about it. So at this point I could just refer you to my previous video, but instead I've completely remade it and we've gone further in all the tests. So the printer dimensions are on screen now with the lid down, and on screen now with the lift up. But you can also remove the lid using 4 screws and slide it off forwards instead. That's what I'll be doing with my printer because it is going to fit in a cupboard and I don't have room to lift the lid up. Inside, the print volume is 211 by 118 by 240 millimeters, and sits atop a 16K screen, accurately described as a 9.6 inch screen. It has a 16K, so 15,120 by 6,230 resolution, with a 14 by 19 nanometer pixel size. And while I was at it, I tested that screen for the UV output. The aim here is to test the consistency of the light output to test the quality. I'll pop a chart up on screen which shows the variance, just so you can see, but I was reasonably pleased with this. I also tested the angle of the light too, and in a perfect test, all the light would be facing upwards because it means all the UV light is being pointed directly where you want it, which is at the model you're curing, not being scattered all over the place. But obviously the most relevant test is models, and I'll have some more glamorous shots of models at the end of the video, but I wanted to show you the results for the calibration tests. For all of these tests I'm using Instalogic high detail dark orange resin. I really like it. You should check them out. The link's below. I'm also using the Instalogic calibration test, but as you can see from the overhang test it was perhaps just a touch underexposed, so for future prints I bumped it to 2.2 seconds and got better results. You can see the fine details being rendered really nicely. The fit tests are perfect. The 5mm cylinder not fitting in the 4.9mm hole but fitting snugly in the 5mm hole, as it should, and the same with the table flip foundry test. The fails came out as fails, the successes as successes, and the sword and cup test worked really well too. It's all looking pretty good so far. The screen is also just as easy to replace as the GK2, so 4 screws and a ribber cable, and under that is also the heater, which I'll show working later, and the carb light source. In the Pro, that's a 385nm light source, so you can use more technical resin on this printer with no worries. And while we have the screen off, you can also see the Fresnel lens, which I'm pleased to say isn't just rattling round in this version, unlike the prototype I had before. The last thing to mention here is the yellow colour on that screen. That's a polarising filter and it leads to improved light transmission, but as of right now I don't really know how to test that. So if someone knows how to test light transmission in a UV screen, at least in a sensible way that I can display on video, then do let me know in the comments below. So a lot of the really good things about the GK2 were not its incredible performance compared to its rivals, although it was pretty good on that front. It was more about the ease of use features. And I'm pleased to say the GK3 takes this even further. There's a flip screen now, which makes it easier for taller people like me to interact with the printer. The lift-up lid now has seals to prevent gas escaping. The drip catcher on the plate itself remains in place and is still really useful. The lid can now shut even with the plate side mounted into the printer. And of course that power button, which is mounted on the front. So far so good, right? Well, yeah, and all these features would have been amazing 12 months ago. But now there are rivals to the GK3 Pro that are already on sale. And those rivals brought functional autofills, cameras, RERF functions built into the UI, fail detection, dynamic lift heights. The list goes on. And all of those features have substantially improved the experience for users like you and me. But best of all, those printers are also very affordable. Now we're going to come to the price in just a second. But first I want to ask a question. Is this the point where the GK3 starts to fall apart for you? For me, it's kind of yes. Because while the GK3 did introduce a camera, and that camera is fully integrated into Chitubox, so it can capture time lapses, and it has a light built in, so it can still do this at night, which instantly makes it better than the Saturn IV Ultra. But the camera is still low resolution affair, and I wasn't able to make the AI fail detection function work at all. The GK3 also has a resin autofill, which works the same as the Formlab system, which is impressive. It's a little bit slow, but it works, and actually once the vat's full, it's just going to keep that vat topped up as and when you need it. Super useful feature. But the app, which has been promised now for probably 6 months, still doesn't exist. And Uniformation haven't replied to my responses to see when that is likely to appear, so I can't even tell you. But the big swing and a miss here is the complete lack of any sort of suites of advanced sensors. Sure, it's got resin level detection and heat sensors, but it doesn't have anything like the sensors need to measure pressure and forces on the build plate or underneath that screen. And that means there's no things like fail detection or dynamic lift heights. And sensors like that were a big part of simplifying 3D printing for more basic users. Sure, you can just keep an eye on things, but actually I want to just plug in my models and have them print regardless. And so that's a massive missing feature, particularly when you consider the price point of the GK3 Pro, which, while we're mentioning it, costs $799. Compare that to an Anycubic M7 Pro, which costs around $650, or a Saturn IV Ultra 16K, which is around the same sort of money. It is still a couple of $100 cheaper than the Haygears Reflex RS, but as I say, it's missing any of the sort of advanced software which makes that printer a tempting purchase. To be fair to them though, the heater is still excellent. So taking all that into account in the context of the wider 3D printing market as it stands right now in May 2025. How do we feel about the GK3 Pro? Let me know seriously, because manufacturers and suppliers and people who work in marketing for 3D printing firms read these comments and I want them to hear what you say. And obviously if you've appreciated the video so far, subscribe. So the GK3 Pro is a 10-inch 3D printer that's on the more expensive end of the spectrum. It costs more than the two biggest rivals, the M7 Pro and the Saturn IV Ultra 16K, while at the same time lacking some of the functionality of those two printers. In particular, advanced sensors, like you get on the M7, and the excellent built-in RERF function that you get on the Elegoo machines. Uniformation have released an RERF function, but there's no real guidance out there for users, and frankly it's a bit half-baked. If you're listening, Uniformation, what I want is an RERF function that's fully baked into the UI of the printer. I did, however, like the fact you put in the exposure times on the actual models themselves, which makes it much easier to use and read. So thank you for that. So the review of this printer is not all negative, not by a long shot. The GK3 does add excellent usability, extremely good print results, high quality components used in the actual assembly of the printer itself, and easily replaceable parts, all of which are great points in its favour. It has all the essential features you'd expect: Wi-Fi, air purification, VAT covers, as well as some nice features that aren't standard. like a decent autofill, like a camera and the fact that a camera also works with major slicers like Chitubox, and finally the seal on the lid to stop gases escaping into your hobby space. All great features. The models shown on screen, by the way, are from Mammoth Factory and are available along with a load of other models on my Patreon, where you can grab the whole lot for just £10 a month. If you do choose to support me, you're joined an elite crew who hang out on my Discord most days and take part in painting challenges and exchange some fun banter. Thank you to everybody who already does this. You're all legends. Thank you so much. So should you buy this printer? The choice, as ever, is yours. I think if you do, much like the GK2, you'll buy yourself a reliable workhorse packed full of high quality components. But you should go into it in the knowledge that you'll need to be more vigilant with print fails and keeping an eye on things. If you do buy it, there are affiliate links below the video. I'd be very grateful if you could use them. But if you're still on the fence, you should check out some of the reviews I've done on its competitors. The M7 and the Heygears Reflex videos are on screen right now. The M7 is cheaper, the RS is more expensive. So I'll leave you by saying that my name's been James, this is RisingApe Minis, and I'll see you next time.